Good morning. It's a rather early start this morning. It's 6:45 where I am, and I'm about to launch into my day. And I'm going to do a special live today. I'm not going to do the usual segment which I would do on a Tuesday because I just wanted to share something with you. I wanted to ask you a question. Do you have a story? When the going gets tough, do you have a story to tell? What I mean by this is that there are going to be things in your life and in your world that other people are going to look at you and say, what on earth are you doing? There are going to be situations in your life where you're going to ask yourself, what on earth am I doing? But there are going to be those decisions, those pivotal decisions that you make that you think, no, I'm going to do this. I really believe in this. I really think that this is the right thing to do or an important thing to do. And the decisions that you make, they may not be shared by everybody, right? They might be fairly unique or fairly special. And during those times when things get hard and you're looking across to find some kind of encouragement or validation or affirmation for what you're doing, you might not find that because maybe the decision that you've made or the path that you've chosen is so unique to you. And in those times, you're going to need to return to your story. Today, I'm actually spending the whole day in a seminar. Good morning. Who's with me at 6:45? I'm going to be spending the whole day this morning actually returning to the roots of a particular story. And that's the reason why I'm actually going live this morning, because I'm not going to get a chance to talk to you the rest of the day, and also because I want to let it sink in. So what is my particular story for today? Well, I'm returning to some roots. I'm returning to some roots for the reason why I'm a psychologist and the reason why I'm in private practice. There are many decisions that one has to make before you land up in this situation. You need to decide, quite honestly, you need to decide whether you're going to be in public health or whether you're going to be in a private practice. There are some value statements there, and you really need to toss up the decisions for why you might go one way or the other, or both. Private practice, it's a lonely journey. Being in business, it's a lonely journey, and you're going to need to make some decisions about why you want to do that and why you keep going. So my particular story actually begins almost 20 years ago when I originally started in the discipline of organizational psychology. So I wasn't always intending to be a clinical psychologist. In fact, I started in the corporate world, in multinational companies as a psychologist. And good morning, Jen. How are you? I'm just telling my story today. And I very quickly was given a lot of responsibility as a junior psychologist, and it was all looking very good. Within the first few years of my career, it seemed to be fast-tracked, and I was holding some regional roles, and there was a lot of trust given to me to actually travel independently to various client sites internationally to help them to develop their staff. And right in the middle of that journey, I just couldn't do it anymore. I think I just came to the point where every time I was developing a solution for a multinational, I just couldn't get my mind off the individuals that I was meeting. When you're trying to get employee performance up, inadvertently you're going to hear about the stories as well, about how it's difficult for them, or the challenges that they've come through, or why they can't work that extra time, or why they can't travel because of their commitments, their family, their aging parents. You hear all these stories, and I couldn't get my mind off them. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't listen to those stories and not attend to them. And I remember sitting with my boss at the time, he himself being an international who was an expatriate working in a country. I was an expatriate as well, working in that particular country, and sitting down with him and saying, I've just got to make this decision to do what I really believe in. I said, I keep hearing the stories of the individual, and I know the mandate of the company, but I'm really drawn to listen to the individuals and help them to figure out how they're going to stand up in the midst of all this stress and still continue to grow and progress. And I tendered my resignation, and my boss at the time, who actually had a clinical background, actually said to me that I'll let you have, I don't know if he remembers this, but it was quite an offer. He said to me that he would give me, I think about 6 months off, but he would hold my full-time position for me. And in that 6 months off, he gave me carte blanche to go and explore and go and volunteer in certain places and certain organizations. And at the end of it, he wanted me to return to my full-time position. Well, what I said to him at the time was that I couldn't guarantee that I would come back, but I was very appreciative of that time. And so for 6 months, I actually took no pay. I just went and volunteer. Whoever wanted to pay me, I actually said to them, don't pay me, because if I'm going to figure out this decision, if I'm going to make this choice, it has to not be about the money. It really has to be because I've tapped into my values, I've tapped into my belief system, and I'm going to make the change. And so for 6 months, I actually volunteered in various counseling situations and took all kinds of varied experiences to figure it out. And at the end of that 6 months, I didn't return to my former role. I, in fact, applied to do a career transfer and do postgraduate studies in clinical psychology. Now, that's just one pivotal moment. It's a story that I need to return to every time. I might feel that, gosh, you know, things are a bit difficult, or I'm feeling a bit worn out, or I'm not sure, nobody else seems to understand what I'm doing. I've got, you know, people, of course, that process was a difficult one because there were many who knew me that thought that I would change my mind and that I was actually taking a path that was pulling me away from my strengths and talents. But I think since I did have made that decision, I didn't look back. I've enjoyed the work that I've come across, and returning to that story is a helpful reminder that it wasn't just a flick of a switch where I suddenly decided to make a change. And sometimes I find that when I'm talking to people in my therapy room, that they doubt the decision they made. Whether it was a year ago or 5 years ago, it's almost like when they look back, they see someone who is scattered, unfocused, a real minimizing of that person 5 years ago. And I actually really encourage, write down your stories, write it down, because when you're in tough times, there's a tendency to look back and minimize all the solid thinking that you were actually putting into place, or that you were tapping into with your vision and your beliefs and your values at that point in time. And we can really minimize that. But if you write that story down and you return to it, it's a way to actually remember that, no, that I made that decision for these reasons. And this is the journey that I've come through. Jen says, wow, Val, what an incredible story. Thank you. Thanks very much, Jen. I'm going to show you one more thing and then I'm going to sign off. When I talk about writing your story down, I actually really mean it. Here's my journal. There's another part of my story. Maybe for another day I'll share it. But I started this journal pretty much the day I started my private practice all those years ago. And this cover actually caught my eye because it's like a superhero, but it's got an M. Now, I'm a mother. And when you're kind of considering doing some out there stuff, people can tell you that you're a super mom. How do you do all of those things? Well, you're never really a super mom or a super person. But I actually got this diary because of that, because I wanted to write my story, my journal from day dot, about all the things that were going through my mind. And as I flick through it, you know, I don't write just the successes. I talk about why I'm in it, the vision, the values, the beliefs, and the struggles. And it's a great way to actually walk through your journey from the beginning and remember who you were, where you were and who you were at the beginning, and to continue to reflect to where you are. So that's my little story today. I'm off to my whole day of returning to some basics, to recast and remember why I'm in private practice, and to remember to serve my community, which are the people that walk through our doors, but also to serve my team better, to become better and better and better at serving them so that they can do the things that that draw on their vision. So I'll leave you with that. Bye. See you later, Jen.